everyone, welcome in. Today I'm going to be doing something a little different. I haven't done an anime style related video in a while. It's been a few months, I think, and the last video I did, actual video, not shit posting meme video, was my Frasier 2023 review. But I'm going to do something a little different today. I'm actually going to go into detail about a certain movie I was a fan of from 2006, and also it got kind of touched up in 2011, I guess. Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. This movie, to me, is very special, but I'm going to go into detail about, is it really that bad? I know it's got a lot of people that really dislike the film, and there are some cheesy, goofy moments, but I am a bit biased to this one. That's just me, my opinion. I am a bit on the biased side about the film, because personally, myself, I love it. Spoilers! I love the film. I like both versions. I enjoyed it. And it was a pretty interesting holdover for me when it came out. I just absolutely loved it. Of course, by the time it did come out, I was going through my big Final Fantasy Kingdom Hearts phase, and now it seems that that moment has resurfaced again for me. I have just recently rewatched this after nearly 5 or 6 years later, and I've got to say, comparing it to the remake and the remake's shitty voice cast, I like this film, and I think it was well done. The Advent Children voice cast is incredible. And one would say I am a massive fan. I mean, I think this is pretty much showing my fandom here. That signature on there, that is signed by George Newbern, the voice of Sephiroth. And, in my opinion, the very best voice of Sephiroth. But at least, the new guy is not as bad as Lance Bass from Kingdom Hearts 1. Anyhow, let's go into kind of the history of this film and basically how it came to be. And is it really warranted, the hatred that it does get from other fan bases? The extreme elitist fan base that comes out about it. Well, there's only one way to find out if that hatred is really warranted. Anyhow, let's stop talking and let's get on with this. Let's get done with this dilly-dally, shilly-shally, and let's hit it.
Well, let's start with a brief history lesson. In 1997, one of the biggest games in the entire universe would drop, and it would change the entire face of gaming. A game that was themed by life. Very powerful, very strong, story-heavy, story-driven, and to me, I know graphically it is not the best-looking game, but it's still, with great writing and great character development, miles better than the remake could ever hope to be. Now, I'm not going to slam the remake the entire way through, comparing it to the original game, because that would be unfair. That would be like comparing beauty and everything to a clump of dirt. That's how I see the remake. I played it, I did not like it, I apologize to anyone. There are many reasons and factors I do not like the remake, but I'm not going to go into complete detail here. But I am going to talk about how this movie came to be along with it. But here we are so far. The game broke the mold. It changed the future of gaming. And this is just my opinion, but without Final Fantasy VII, I do not think we would have gotten masterpiece games later on, like Final Fantasy X, or hell, even Final Fantasy VIII, which is probably my favorite game out of the series. Sue me, I know. 7 broke the mold for video gaming in general, and it was a big commercial product for being on the PlayStation 1 also, running and using everything it had with its factors. Final Fantasy, or Square, was doing everything they could to make this game excellent. And they thought, or they didn't think at the time, how big this game was going to be, how huge the fan base was going to get from this game alone. And did it succeed? Oh yeah, it really freaking succeeded. It blew everything out of the water. The fans, people were going to conventions and dressing like these characters. This was a game that reawakened the love of anime and the love of gaming in general. And it blew into a franchise of its own, creating spin-offs and being cameo featured and other stuff like Kingdom Hearts. But that's about the game. Let's talk about what I'm going to talk about, how the movie came to be. Well, this movie is a blessing in disguise, because beforehand, we had, well, another project of Square called Final Fantasy The Spirits Within. It was garbage. There was absolutely nothing good about this game, aside from the beautiful graphics and stuff, but it felt like it was really not conveying anything. When people saw the tagline Final Fantasy, they were hoping it was going to be based off some of the games. And unfortunately, it wasn't. Now, what makes Advent Children important is the reason Advent Children, I believe anyhow, got made was kind of as an apology and a gift to the fans. We wanted to see a movie about VII, we wanted to see about Cloud and etc. We wanted these characters to be brought to life, and we finally got our wish when this came out. This movie was huge. They went into everything with the budget and everything going on here. Now that I've given a brief history lesson, let's move on and start talking about the other stuff, because this is going to be fun here.
Today's scars shall never fade.
Okay, now we're getting into it here. Now, this was going to be tricky to make. Now, I will not be talking about the Japanese voices here, but we're going to be talking about the animation. A lot of the first time in this was going to be some of the first time that these characters would have a voice, though they would feature with voices in other products. Kingdom Hearts 1, Cloud was portrayed by Steve Burton, who actually did come back for the movie. Also, Aerith had been given a voice too by Mandy Moore, of all people, who did not return for Kingdom Hearts 2 or Advent Children, unfortunately, and did not reprise her role. So, personally, I really like Mandy Moore's performance, but she was then replaced by Mana Savuri. I am so sorry, I cannot pronounce that name. I don't have too many kind words to say about her performance here, but I don't think it was her fault, because she is a wonderful actress and fantastic all to boot. But I don't like what the dub did with her. Then we have Yuffie, who was also given a voice in Kingdom Hearts 1 by Christy Carlson Romano. She would also come back to reprise her role in Advent Children, which thankfully was great, because she always gave Yuffie excellent energy and excellent, I don't know what it is. There's something in her voice that made Yuffie sound so badass and hyper at the same time that I really liked. She'd come back to be replaced by Mae Whitman in the later installments in Kingdom Hearts games, but we're not talking completely about Kingdom Hearts, just the voice performances before this movie came out. And then, of course, finally, Sephiroth was given a voice, and it was probably one of the worst voices ever performed for Kingdom Hearts 1. And this one, he was performed by Lance Bass, who sounded just outright terrible. I mean, good God, he was just fucking awful. He didn't really talk. It was mainly battle grunts, but he did not have much of the menacingness and suave and sophistication in his voice that he would later have in later incarnations. It was just mainly rah, hoo, ha, heartless angel, and that was basically his whole shtick. Once in a while, Kingdom Hearts 1 did have excellent voice casting. I mean, Christy Carlson Romano and Mae Whitman are really hard for me to pick for who my favorite Yuffie is. But I've already done a dub battle with these voices before. I'm not going to do one here. I'm just going to talk about the casting. However, Final Fantasy X-2 came out. And George Newbern, who was up and coming at the time, played a character in X-2, or X2, I guess is what it's called. And the reception from that performance was overwhelmingly positive that they asked him to perform as Sephiroth and Advent Children and in Kingdom Hearts 2 and in many other games to come. And fantastically enough, his is my favorite performance out of the entire Square gang. I mean, every time he's on screen, he eats up the scenery. There is something incredibly sophisticated in his voice. He can sound menacing and badass and condescending at the same time, but he can also sound just like a regular person if he needed to. He always sounds like he's up to something. It's interesting. And what's funny is, you know, this would not be the only person from space that wants to, you know, have superpowers from a heavenly field, a promised land that he would play on. He also was Superman at one time. And yeah, I'm going into voice cast history here, but this is just excellent on the voices. The later voices we got, other characters that we did not get to have voices until later on, was Barrett, who was played by Bo Billingsley. And my God, at first he was doing kind of a Mr. T imitation at the beginning of the movie, especially when he's talking about the biggest damn oil you've ever seen. He knocked it out of the park, though. He was able to kind of give a more warmer touch to Barrett, where he sounds like a tough guy, but he doesn't sound like a stereotype, because to me, Barrett is not a stereotype. I cannot stand the fact in the remake where they made him sound like a freaking stereotype. I apologize to the actor, but recasting these voices were terrible in the remake, and I'm getting completely off subject here. I have bitter resentment for the remake voices, and I apologize. Also, anyhow, let's get back to it. Barrett was fantastically well casted by Bo Billingsley, and just excellent performance. Of course, there isn't a performance of Bo Billingsley that I dislike. I mean, the guy can do almost any role. He was cream of the crop here, and he just, with what little he had to work with, was fantastic. Of course, Steve Burton came back to play Cloud again, which was great. He always is able to give a great performance as Cloud. That's all I'm going to say, other than, you know, his regular character of Jason Morgan on General Hospital. Yes, I watched General Hospital when I was younger. Don't judge me. Screw you people. Just kidding. But he was able to kind of make his voice sound excellent. He could be a little monotone at times, but I think that's the whole idea of Cloud. When I'm playing the original game, I hear Steve Burton's performance in my head when reading the text, you know, not interested or etc., etc. You know, I just really like the fact that he was able to get a pretty good hold on Cloud's character. I like that a lot. That was really well done. We did get other voices later on. Christy Carlson Romano, as I said earlier, did come back to replay Yuffie, and of course she always has her bubbly energy, and she's just fantastic. I really enjoyed the performance of Yuffie in this movie, even though it was a short time. Red 13 got a 15-second speaking role where he says there are children with the stigma, voiced by Liam O'Brien. And of course, Liam O'Brien, basically, I can't really judge a performance on just a couple of lines, so I'm not going to go there. And then we got Sid, who actually did not have a voice in Kingdom Hearts 1, ironically. They made him just talk in text. I think the reason for that was, this is my theory, Japanese did not know how to handle his voice, and I don't think he got a voice until this film, and it was basically the kind of southern twang, basic country boy style hick type voice, which works so much better in English than Japanese. I've heard both versions. Sid was done really well here. I mean, when I'm reading the game and he says, "Drink your tea," I hear that gruffed up voice. In fact, if I were casting Sid, I would pick Billy Bob Thornton to play him, because that would... But this guy did fantastic on his own. We also have another character with a voice, Vincent Valentine, who was played by the legendary Steve Bloom. He gets quite a bit of screen time in this one, and of course, with Steve Bloom fashion, he does his definite, "yo, I'm so cool" voice. You know what I mean. Vincent was great. I enjoyed that. I'm going on to the voice cast because this is just how I'm going to rank the movie, how I saw it, and how I hear the characters anyhow. Then we have Tifa Lockhart, who finally got a voice, and she even got to reprise the role later on, Rachel Lee Cook. And as much as I do shit on the remake, I do like Britt Baron's voice a tad more, but Rachel was able to give great energy and delivery that kind of just matched Tifa. There are some silly lines that she has to say, but she fits perfectly. I honestly really dug this performance. It's fantastically well done. I don't know, she can make her sound innocent and sweet, but during the fight scenes and etc., Rachel can make her sound tough like a badass. I would say she's all that, if you catch my drift. Yes, you can leave shit post in the comments about that terrible joke, I apologize. But yeah, we finally got a great cast. And the cast just fit. It was so good that they got to reprise their roles. Well, besides Christy Carlson Romano, who was replaced by Mae Whitman and Dirge of Cerberus in Kingdom Hearts 2 and so on, that kind of just stuck with it. And it was just so well done. Of course, there were other roles that were not so great. Also, I kind of liked Wally Winghart's Rufus Shinra, who kind of gives more of a subdued performance in this. If you guys know who he is and his recent voice work, he's also known as Renji from Bleach. So that kind of gives you the idea that he is much more subdued and quiet in this one. But I will say the Japanese version of Rufus Shinra fits better, and possibly the remake. Also, we were finally given voices to Marlene, who was a very interesting choice, but she did get replaced later on in the 2011 complete version, or 2010. I don't remember what year that came out, folks. With another younger actress to kind of pan her out, and it sort of worked that way. Anyhow, let's get back to it. Also, speaking of Shinra, we did get a few extra voices added into it. Now, I won't say too much about Elaine and some other Shinra Turks employees, but I will say Reno and, of course, the fantastic Rude is played by Quentin Flynn and Crispin Freeman, who work really well off each other. In fact, I had no idea that Crispin Freeman was Rude until I had to look it up many years down the road. So he's doing a very subtle performance here, and what's funny, this would not be his last entanglement with Final Fantasy or / Kingdom Hearts. As in Kingdom Hearts 2, he got to play Will Turner. And of course, Setzer from Final Fantasy VI / Kingdom Hearts 2. And he would also come back in later incarnations of the game. And of course, in another voice, Crispin would also play Steiner in Final Fantasy IX, some of the patch voice work in that, who worked really well. Quentin Flynn as Reno was just fantastic, and he gives Reno that perfect attitude, so much better than the shitty remake voice by a mile. Of course, we have Rick Gomez as Zack Fair, and as I was saying, Mina Severi, as Aerith. And though I do not really particularly like her performance, I am a fan of her work. I love her work in American Pie, American Beauty. I think she's great. But for some reason, the dub decided to use a filter over her voice and making her sound more angelic, which kind of bothered me in hindsight. But she did kind of play Aerith in Kingdom Hearts 2 and sort of patched up her voice there. So she did do a good Aerith, just not in this film. Then, of course, Rick Gomez as Zack Fair was just incredible. I can't say too much or too little. He only had a few lines, but he got to redeem those lines in Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, and he got to do his own thing. He was perfect for Zack. He didn't make Zack sound like he just hit puberty like in the shitty-ass remake. I'm sorry I keep saying that. But man, this voice cast, these characters finally got a voice. Everything was great. Everything just fit. Even Aerith's filter voice fit, and the short lines from Kate Sith and, of course, Red 13, or Nanaki as he's actually called, fit perfect. And I kind of enjoyed it. It was an excellent run of a voice cast that I think should have got to stick around. I preferred all these voices over the remake. And I know I did a dub battle where I said Britt Baron was a little better, but these voices fit. So, yeah, this film gave voices to these characters, other than their Kingdom Hearts 1 counterparts. Steve Burton actually got to improve as Cloud more, and he got to do a little more with the character than just acting depressed or etc. like he does in Kingdom Hearts 1, where he only gets very few lines. I noticed that he gets more in Kingdom Hearts 2, and Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. He really did expand on this really well. I think the voice cast was excellent in my opinion, and honestly, when I play the original game, these are the voices I hear. Even Aerith's voice. That's just really well done. And that's really all I've got to say. The voice cast was excellent. Now let's get on to the story and, of course, the music and everything going for it. Let's go.
Make it easy on yourselves and give up now.
The story, however, I can see where a lot of people take issue with. The story is strange. It takes place 2 years after the first original game, and it's not terrible, but it does feel forced. Like, really forced. I think what it is the fan service that's in the game. It feels like you're watching a video game and they're fighting, and some of the fight scenes, which to me is entertaining to watch. The animation alone is gorgeous. I mean, I love seeing the city of Midgar expanding, and I like seeing Bahamut, or basically Sin Bahamut, which is kind of cool. But the story is what we're going to focus on here. Let's talk about it. Basically, 3 characters come back. Kadaj and his gang, who is portrayed by Steve Staley, and of course, you know what, I'm just not going to get into it. I just went on a whole thing of voice things. Anyhow, Kadaj and his gang are looking for pieces of Jenova, and they're trying to resurrect Sephiroth and be the good little Sephiroth clones that they're supposed to be. And they're wreaking havoc, and there's also a stigma from the old calamity of the Jenova project and Project Meteor that really went and fell to the earth, while Kadaj and his gang are trying to find Jenova to become Sephiroth, which it's just so much put out, and we get so many fight scenes that just come out of nowhere. I can see where people are like, well, what the fuck is this? And when I first watched it, I loved it as a kid. I mean, I was like maybe 15 when this came out, and I just loved about every scene in it. But looking at it with more of an adult's eye view, since I'm a lot older and possibly wiser, I do get what people are complaining about. I feel Kadaj and his gang are extremely forced. They're over the top, they're whiny, and they are not good antagonists at all in this. And of course, during the precise thing of the whole Shinra going on, for some reason Rufus Shinra survived. Neat! He survived an explosion. Okay. And basically, the stigma that is going around all through Midgar, or I guess their entire planet at this point, is done really well. Cloud himself is on a whole redemption arc, trying to find forgiveness for having guilt for Aerith's death and his lies that he told Zack, or told about Zack, which he technically wasn't lying since his memories were kind of messed with. It's very confusing, and they really do kind of pack a lot in. The story is just fan service. It's basically, they're trying to get Cloud to fight Sephiroth again, but it just feels so forced. But I will say the problem with the story is it feels like fan fiction and fan service through the whole thing. But it's very good fan fiction and fan service. To me, anyway. Although I do get annoyed with Kadaj because him and his brothers, I guess, are so fucking whiny. I mean, there are scenes where the characters start like, oh, she's not here. Where's mother? Don't cry. It's not really that good when it comes to it. And yeah, I get why a lot of people are turned off by this film in general because of the antagonist kind of sucking. And then it feeling like a forced fight between Cloud and Sephiroth around the end. But yeah, the story is not, it's lacking a lot of substance. Think of generic ramen, but they took a lot of the beef packet flavoring out and they cut it down. That's the best way to explain the story of this. But it is entertaining still. It is able to hold your interest. Even though you don't know certain things that are going on. You don't know when a flashback is happening versus when something is going on right there. Like, one of my biggest issues with the story is right after Denzel and Marlene are taken and Tifa is beaten up, and then it shows Cloud on his bike looking for them, and then it's back to him talking with Tifa, and she does her shilly shally line, which I do know in the Japanese is a completely different line. It's just kind of weird on how it just throws everything around. And then it shows Cloud looking for the kids with the stigma that they've kidnapped all the children, and it's just all over the place. Yes, I just said I loved the movie a little bit ago, but here I am kind of bashing the film at the same time. It does have problems, I will admit it. But let's go and skip forward to the visuals and stuff, which my ranking for the story, it's probably its weakest aspect of the whole thing. And I know you watch a movie for its story, but you can still like something for other reasons. For some reason, people still like the new Star Wars, and it's garbage. Yes, I'm going back to my shit referencing post about it that I made. But anyhow, I will admit that this movie doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and there is just a whole lot of things that are wrong with it, but we get to see our characters with a good voice cast and a lot of interesting action going on. But as the whole, the story in general, the plot on how it's just so much going on at once, I'm gonna give this one a score of 6 out of 10. It feels just off, like it's trying to cram so much into one little bowl, and there's not really much flavor to it. So let's go on to the visuals, like I just said.
Laugh while you still can.
Okay, the visuals and the music. The soundtrack itself, I guess I will talk about the soundtrack first, because, you know, it's all one. I rank these together. You know, visuals, animation. I basically did the characters and story. The characters were basically, you know, when I was talking about the voice cast, so. But let's talk about the visuals and the, of course, music that's used. The music is kind of great. Final Fantasy VII is probably my favorite video game soundtrack next to Chrono Trigger's. That's saying a lot for me because I hold nothing to Chrono Trigger. I am really particular when it comes to video game music, and Chrono Trigger has the best video game music ever made. Final Fantasy VII has the second best video game music of all time. They did so well updating the music in this film that it kind of just holds your interest through it. Sephiroth's theme is given a more of a definite orchestral rock heavy metal feel to it, and I like that. The Genova head theme is just definitely given a much more faster paced techno beat to it, which I really love that too. Aerith's theme is definitely picked up quite a bit, and it's seems a little faster in tone, but everything sounds so much more updated. It feels like something was really well done with the music here. The music just set the mood perfectly. Even though sometimes I do feel that it was in random places at random times, it still sounded beautiful. My favorite theme being obviously the One Winged Angel theme, which, good God, was amazing. That's my favorite version of One Winged Angel, is with the heavy metal orchestral stuff going on in it. It's just great, and it fit the scene perfectly. Now let's move on to the visuals. The visuals are just breathtaking. For 2006, or basically 2005 in Japan, this looked fucking good. Like, even on Blu-ray, it looks good. Now, I will say some of the mouth movement scenes are a little off in the dub. Like, you could tell that some of the dub is just a little off. But none of the performance feels stilted either. And the visuals are excellent. It is like definitely watching somebody play the video game in HD, especially if you watch this sucker on Blu-ray. One of my favorite scenes is actually the fight between Tifa that she has in the film, and she just does great. She even does the little Easter egg of her limit gauge break, which I just think is fantastic. And we get to see more and more of it. Now, it is very fast-paced. Like, the fighting is really quick. It feels like, well, shit, you've got to keep your eye on the whole thing or you're going to miss some kind of detail. It's fast. There are some moments with the visuals and the fight scenes, especially like the scenes where Cloud is fighting up against Kadaj and his gang on a motorcycle, and it does feel a little awkward at times, but it still looks really good. The setting alone, the city of Midgar, it looks great. I even like the updated Shinra feel. And the character costumes, which changed up, I really like those a lot too. I love their updated look. Cloud wearing black and Tifa wearing black is just a plus for me. And I do love the other characters' costume changes, especially Yuffie's. I don't know why. I always found this look so much better than her green uniform. I don't know. The Hawaiian shirt and etc. kind of just fits her. And the character's animation, just it all just kind of fits. It definitely feels like an updated version of the game. And we do get a lot of great stuff. Sephiroth's hair alone must have cost a lot of money to make. Of course, it does take like 13 bottles of shampoo to wash his hair. Of course, I've got to quote Crisis Core here. But man, the visuals in this movie are just breathtakingly good. With music, beautiful music score to accompany it. You can kind of feel the bad points of the movie itself, like the overly complicated story with so much going on, and you feel more at ease with it when you're watching it. It's kind of like it's candy for your brain candy, I guess, or eye candy, and you're kind of sucked into it, and you just can't leave the world of this game. I mean, of this movie. I keep calling it a game. Why do I keep doing this? But yeah, it just pans out perfectly. And what made this really interesting was just how well it was done. The animators themselves even had said in the past that they did not want to animate regular fighting scenes. They wanted to do it like it was an actual video game cutscene battle thing. And they did that, and it kind of was more in favor. Some scenes are a little weird, the camera could be a little all over the place, but I can over-excuse it. So what do I rate this as that? I mean, yeah, I just gave the story a really low score, but the visuals and the music, I've got to give it an 8 out of 10. This one was really pushed and well done all together, with great voice work, great music, and excellent fight scenes to accompany it. Definitely an 8 out of 10 here. I love the fight scenes throughout the film. They really do a good job capturing that Final Fantasy feel. Let's move on to my full final thoughts on why I love this film so much.
I'm the great ninja Yuffie. I think...
So, final thoughts of this film, I suppose I could say. Why do I like it so much? I mean, I already told you guys at the beginning of the video, before I even started the whole deal, why I like it. Well, I think what makes this movie important, because it is important, it did draw a lot of people to Final Fantasy VII. Say, I had friends that had never played the game, and they watched the movie and then started playing the game shortly after. It was really important. In fact, yeah, people wanted to play the game from this film, and me, I was already kind of introduced to the Final Fantasy realm due to Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy VII originally anyhow. So, what do I think of this as a whole? Well, excellent voice cast, but with a mixed-match story, beautiful visuals and stuff, I still think it's great. Yeah, I'm a little more of a skeptic when I'm obviously now in my 30s and I'm talking about a movie that was made for 15-year-olds. I like it. I still love it, and I still think it holds up today. The animation was really well done. Although, I wouldn't have mind seeing, say, Final Fantasy VII Last Order animation style like that. That would have been awesome, too. But, we did get this done. And this movie, believe it or not, is really important to Final Fantasy VII fans. A lot of people that I know didn't play the game until they watched this film. And me, I bought maybe 2 separate versions of this film because of how much I enjoyed the special features, the extra added footage, the voice work. I think this is Final Fantasy VII, and I do consider this canon. Even though it is all over the place, what Final Fantasy game isn't all over the place? Final Fantasy VIII is one of my favorite games, and its story is everywhere. But there was severe effort put into this. They knew what the fans wanted to see. American, Japanese, we all knew what we wanted to see, and it was honestly worth it. To me, I remember when I bought this thing on DVD the first time, I was mowing lawns. I was only 15. I was mowing lawns, and I had to have this freaking game. I mean, this movie. Then later on, Kingdom Hearts 2 came out, and I was just excited and happy, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I consider this, Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, one of the best Final Fantasy products ever made. It's better than Final Fantasy The Spirits Within, that's for damn sure. There was some severe effort put in, and everything was just really wrapped up. I mean, the story is very loose, but I can't help but still feel validation every time I watch it. The music is beautiful, the voice cast is excellent, the script is fun, the fight scenes throw you in. This is an excellent, cool movie. And I guess I defend it. As a whole, I'm going to say the entire film, to me anyhow, is worthy of being a 7 out of 10. Honestly, that's how I feel about this film. It was a long time coming, and we kind of needed it, and it did set the ground for other Final Fantasy VII spin-offs like Crisis Core and Last Order and several other things. Without this film, we would not have gotten those awesome spin-offs, and I am very grateful for that. And honestly, that's about all I wanted to say about this. I appreciate you guys for listening and listening to some crazy old dude defend this movie from his childhood. I hope some of you like it. If you don't like it, tell me in the comments why you hate this film. That does it about it for now.
Well, that about does it right there. It was kind of interesting to go back into detail on this series again, on this movie. I really have never done a full-fledged, just a movie alone interview like this. I have done series and I've done retrospectives on movies, but I normally lump them all together. This was kind of an interesting experience to me because it's honestly a miracle that this thing got made in general. With a really great voice cast and beautiful, breathtakingly good animation. I mean, shit. And great action scenes. We were lucky as the 2006 Final Fantasy VII fans to get this. And it did do a lot for us, too. You know, it introduced people who weren't fans of the original game and made them fans and made them want to play the game. The movie does have its problems, I admit, and some of the scripting issues are a little silly and dated now, but I think it's just a really well done film, personally. Is there any other films that you guys want me to talk about like this, go into deep detail, anime movie related or regular related? I can. Tell me in the comments, and all I gotta say is thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Always remember, I'm listening.
It is I, George Newbern, as Sephiroth, to tell you all the best way to get into the Promised Land is to like and subscribe to Tim's YouTube channel for more awesome content. See you there. Or get on your knees and beg for forgiveness.